Welcome back, boys and girls. What we're going to polish off today is the different levels and get those set up, and then lastly include a high score and be able to load and save a high score. So let's work on the levels first. So to make this testing go a little bit faster, we're going to put in a couple more shortcuts. Right now we just have a shortcut for resetting the objects. The next one's going to be for setting the block break count to 0. So basically mimicking getting rid of all the blocks in the level. So we'll go ahead and set up a key for that. I'm going to make it C for cheat. And eventually when we go ahead and create this game and program it out, we're going to delete these so the player can't actually cheat. But for testing purposes, it makes it go a lot faster. So we're going to set the block break count when we press this key equal to 0, meaning there's no blocks left in the game. Even though there still will be, it's just a cheat to make it go faster. So just to make sure that this is actually being called so we can debug a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and write a line into the output. So we're just going to say blocks remaining and then output the actual value, and it should be 0 because we're setting it to 0 right here. Always good to do this to debug and make sure your event's being called. And then we're going to put in one other one that is actually going to increase the score. We're not going to use this right now, but a little bit later when we start messing with the high score and saving and loading, we'll use this. So when you press the H key, again, you can use whatever key you want. I'm going to use H for high score. And I'm going to change the score label to text and output the correct value for the score. There we are. So now we need a trigger for when all of the blocks are destroyed. So we need to go into our timer tick and place an if statement if the block break count is 0. So I'm going to place it at just the very end of the timer tick subroutine, right below the for block. So we have if block break count is 0, then. So what this means is if all the blocks in the level are broken, then to keep this event from running again, we have to set block break count to something different. But we don't want to set it to anything greater than 0 because then it means that the level's not beaten. So we'll set it to -1. Even though this shouldn't happen, we just set it so that it doesn't run this event again. And we'll set can played false because the player has beaten the level. All the blocks are broken. All right, so what we're going to do is set up a result. And what this is going to hold is the value of a message box. And the message box is going to display that the player has beaten the level and show that they can go on to the next level. So we'll just say you beat level. And then it depends on which level they're on for what we want to say next. So that's why we're going to append our variable for level. Another reason why we wanted to set that up here in a variable so that we can call whatever this number is. So that'll put that in there. And we'll append it to an exclamation mark or a period, up to you. And we'll just give the player some direction. Click OK to move to the next level. All right, we'll give a title for this message box. We'll just say congratulations. And we'll let them click OK. That'll be the only button present to them. And I'm just going to give it an icon as an asterisk so that puts a little flair into the project. All right, so the whole reason we set this up as a variable, whoops, this should be as, not an equal sign, sorry about that. All right, so the reason we set this up as a variable so that we can grab the result of this. So if what the player clicks is message box result.ok, then what we're going to do is call a new subroutine. All right, and this is going to set up the new level. This is going to be very similar to our restart function right down here. However, what it's going to have to do is position the blocks depending on what level we're on. So if we're on a different level, maybe you want your blocks to be in a different arrangement. So right now it's giving me an error because we didn't actually set this subroutine up. So right below the restart subroutine, we'll create a new one, and I'll call it private sub setup new level. I think that's what I called it. Yeah. All right, so it should look like that. No errors. What I'm going to do is go ahead and copy what we did for our restart subroutine. I'm just going to copy all that down here in the setup new level. And what's really going to change is this line right here, because we're not always going to be on level 1 block positions. So that's why this function is different than the restart. The restart always uses level 1 block positions. So what we're going to have to do is change this line right here. I'm just going to cut it out for now because we're going to put in an if statement. All right, so we're going to say if level equals 2, then, and then I'm going to go ahead and paste this in. So this subroutine is only going to be called if we have a new level. So that's why we can start at level 2. We don't have to worry about level 1 because when that happens, it's going to call restart instead. All right, so what we're going to have to do is change this one here to level 2 block locations. And that's pretty much it. All right, this sets the position of the block to where they need to be in level 2. If you want to put in another level, just do an else if level equals 3. Then paste that back in and change again from level 1 to level 3. Okay, so when I click off of these are going to give me an error because I haven't actually set up block locations for these. So we can do that next. If you wanted to add more levels in here, all you have to do is increase this. For the length of the tutorial, we're only going to do 3, but you'll get the idea of how to make more later on. All right, so here's my level 1 block positions. I'm going to go ahead and copy that, paste it here. So this is going to be level 2 block positions. And one more time for level 3. All right, since I copy and paste these are going to have the same block positions for each one. If you want to use the same number of blocks in each level, that's totally fine. You can use your block break count right here and just reset it to that. However, if you want to use a different number of blocks, like I'm going to do, all right, we can put in that if statement right down here. All right, so just so blocks don't get deleted, I'm going to put it right in front of the second for statement. I'm still in my setup new level subroutine. I'm going to do it between these two for statements. So if level is equal to 2, then I'm going to set my block break count, instead of to the maximum at 16, I'm going to set it to 12. I'm only going to have 12 blocks in my second level. Else if level is equal to 3, then I'm going to decrease it even more because they're going to be more spaced out, which means they're usually harder to hit. I'm going to set it to 10. All right, you can change these values to whatever you want. Just make sure you have the same number of points for each block up here. Okay, so for instance, I put 12 for number 2, so I only need 12 points up here, so I can delete 4 of them. Make sure you leave this end squiggly brace because the series of points needs to have those squiggly brackets in front. So I'm just going to delete 4 of these. There's 3, there's 4. Okay, for this one I can delete 6 because I only have 10 blocks. There we go. All right. To actually find the positions for these, what you can do is manipulate these blocks. Remember, it doesn't matter where they are because they're always going to get reset because of our restart function that we set up right here. This is always being called at the load of the game. All right, so we're resetting them anyways. So it doesn't matter how many or where you have them. So you can kind of go along and place them accordingly. I think I want to make kind of an M. So here's my 12 blocks. I'm going to do something like this. Go ahead and rearrange them. All right, when you have these positions where you want them, go ahead and notate them. So click on an object and look at your location. Take the X and Y coordinates, just like we did for level 1. Come back into your code and replace your points in level 2. And then do the same thing for level 3. All right, so this is 36,261. Okay, go ahead and do that for your 2 levels here, and we'll leave off on this video and we'll pick up in the next tutorial once you have all those filled in.